Today we'll celebrate the flavors of an English summer with these elegant fruit towers. Drawing inspiration from classic desserts like a Victoria sponge and strawberries and cream, this recipe layers sponge cake, whipped cream, and fresh berries for a refreshing and sophisticated treat. Let's get started. Welcome to Gary's Urban Larder. I'm Gary Rice, and today we're going to do a recipe that I call an English summer fruit tower. So just go over the ingredients quickly, and remember, in the description box there's a link for the full recipe. So we have some flour already in the bowl, and I'm just going to add a pinch of salt. And people are always curious why you have salt in a sweet cake, and that helps just round off and balance the flavors. So also I'm going to add some baking powder to that, and I'm just going to use my whisk and combine those. And this is the most difficult part, and you really are doing this to actually get a bit of air in the flour mixture, because we're going to do a one bowl method. So I'm just going to add the sugar, I'm going to add all of our butter, which is very, very soft, and our eggs. I know people are saying this is never going to work, but trust me, it does. And vanilla. And I've got a little bit of milk, a little jug of milk here, just in case it's too thick and I want to thin it out. So I'm using my hand mixer, and I'm just going to start that on a slow setting and just combine all of those ingredients. And as those start to combine, I will increase the speed. And I'm not going to over mix this. I just want all of the ingredients incorporated. Now, I think that's a bit too thick, so what I'm going to do is add just a little bit of milk to thin this down to a consistency that I want. Here we go. And again, adding the liquid, you want to start slowly because you don't want to splatter, and then increase the speed. And that's it. That really is it. It couldn't be more simple to actually make the batter for your sponge. I'm just going to take our beaters off and give them a whack against the bowl just to get the excess off. Place those there, and I've turned to my spatula. I'm just going to scrape the bowl around the sides, the bottom, get myself a little bit of space here. And I have a sheet tray with an edge that I've greased and lined with parchment paper. And I'm just going to add our sponge batter on top of that parchment. I love a spatula. Get every bit of it. So I'm just going to use that and just spread that out over the entire tray. So this is going to form the base of our towers. So once I have that spread out relatively evenly, I'm going to take my flat spatula and I'm going to come back and just level that out. Because I want an even layer, because we're going to stack these. Get that into the corners. I'm just going to get the excess off of the spatula. And I'm going to run that across the stick one more time before we put it into a moderately hot oven. It's about 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 170 degrees Celsius. And we're going to bake it for about 20 minutes. We don't want to over bake it. We'll check it at 20 minutes. And if it needs a bit more, then we can leave it in so we can test that. And I think that's a pretty good job. And I'll just place this in the oven and I'll see you in 20 minutes. Okay, our sponge is in the oven and it's baking and it's smelling pretty good. So while that's finishing its bake, we're going to start by making the simple syrup. So I'm taking equal parts of water and sugar. And that truly is simple. So we just bring that to temperature. We want to make sure that sugar is dissolved. And it's not as difficult as a caramel or something. We're not burning the sugar. We're just making sure we dissolve all of the sugar into that liquid, into the water. And now it's starting to boil. And I'm just going to let that boil for a few seconds, really. And it starts to really reduce just a bit. And that is it for a simple syrup. Now I'm going to let that cool, and I have some rose water, which I'm going to add once it's cool. And we're going to use that simple syrup to brush over our sponge when we have the cool sponge. In the interim, while we're waiting, I've got some fruit that's going to fill our sponges. So I've got some really nice strawberries. I've got blueberries, a bit of lemon, which we're going to juice and take some of the zest. And we're just going to add that with some sugar to a bowl and set it aside, and it will form its own syrups. So I'm just going to get started by topping the strawberries and just slicing them. And then they go to a boil. And that is pretty straightforward. Doesn't take any particular technique. Don't cut your fingers. I hope you have pretty good knife skills. And use the flat side to keep the fruit steady and slice through it. And a tip, if you've got some really beautiful strawberries, save them to the end for decoration. Put the ones that are a bit misshapen into the bowl with your sugars. And that way you save the most attractive fruit for your decoration. So I've set some aside. And I'm going to add those at the end and I'll show you what we can do. So right to that, I'm going to add some lemon juice. Just half a lemon. And I'm going to add some sugars. And I'm just going to stir that to combine. So I'll save the zest for a little later, and we'll add that with the blueberries. The mint, it's a good time to add that now. You just want to actually pick your leaves away from the stem. So take those leaves and, like most herbs, we'll roll them together and we'll just run our knife through them. And we'll add that to the fruit in our bowl. And give it another quick stir. And you can see, actually, it's starting now to make a kind of liquor. And that's really what we're looking for, because that's going to add lots of flavor as well as aroma to our dessert. Alright, I'm going to finish up cutting the rest of these and check on our cake. I'll be back in just a second. So our sponge has come out of the oven, and you can see it bounces back just to the touch. I've also tested it with a skewer, a wooden skewer, making sure that when it comes out, it's not wet. So this is fine. This now has to cool completely. We've taken our sponge out of the oven, we've let it cool completely, and our simple syrup with rose water added will now just brush onto that cake. And this adds, of course, flavor and a little extra moisture into our sponge. So we don't need to soak it. We're just adding, again, a little more flavor and a little moisture. So this sponge is completely cool. You can do it to a warm sponge, but I prefer to wait. So while that's soaking in, I'm going to make our Chantilly cream. So it's really straightforward. To a chilled bowl, I'm adding whipping cream, a little icing sugar, confectioner's sugar, and a little splash of vanilla. And we're going to start very slow because this will splatter, and then we'll increase the speed. So as that starts to combine, we increase the speed. And we want to be careful because we don't want to over whip it. If you over whip cream, it becomes butter. And we don't want butter. So it's incorporating air, as you can see. And the more air that becomes incorporated into that cream, the thicker it becomes. And we can increase the speed a bit more. And it starts to become very, very creamy, as you might expect. Let's just check it. See, it's still a bit thin, but you can see how much thicker that's become. So whip it a little more. Incorporating more air until it starts to hold its peak. We're going for a soft peak, not a stiff peak. And that is good. So you can see that. It's nice rich cream. So now we're ready to assemble our towers. So I've got a plate, I've got a cookie cutters, I've got two. So I'm just going to press that through and cut out 3 pieces of our sponge. I'm going to use my knife to peel that away. And there's our sponge. So I'm going to set that in the center of our plate and put the other ring on top of it. And to that, I'm going to add some of our whipped cream, some of our berries. And on top of that, I'll add another sponge, pressing that down. A bit more whipped cream to hold our fruit. Lost one, but that's okay. And our final sponge, which goes on top. Just going to lift that ring a bit. Final bit of whipped cream, our fruit. And you know what? I think I'm going to add one more ring. To finish our tower, I'm going to pluck some fine mint leaves. Just going to touch them to the cream onto the top. We're going to top our strawberry, and this time we're going to slice it, but not all the way through, because we're going to fan this out for the top. So I'm just going to take the back of my knife and press that. And we've got a nice fan of the strawberries. So there we have it, our summer fruit tower with strawberries, blueberries, Chantilly cream. If you like today's recipe, please give us a thumbs up. Remember to share the video, and if you're not yet a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss a recipe. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.